The rhetoric from the left wing needs to stop. You know it, I know it, everybody knows it. After a string of deadly attacks over the last month, which can all be traced back to the left, it's time to address the obvious. The violent rhetoric coming from the Democratic Party has become the #1 threat to peace and stability in this country, and should have no place in our public discourse. The days of Republicans and Democrats disagreeing on just taxes are long gone, and today, the fundamental differences have become graver, and the stakes are significantly higher. For a decade now, Democrats have lied through the teeth about their Republican counterparts, calling us all racist and sexist, xenophobic Nazis.
Dude, it's just becoming Nazis again.
You think so? Who else was... Really?
Yeah.
It was pretty clearly just a lie at first, but after repeating a lie for so long, people really start to believe it. And now, in 2025, liberals genuinely believed that this guy is the same as the one from Germany, with the small little mustache, whose name I still can't say here on YouTube. And knowing the horrors of World War II, who, after all, would want to live alongside Nazis? That is the logic on the left today. You know, if there were a shred of truth behind their beliefs, maybe some of their fears would be valid. If what the left is worried about actually was happening, I think pretty much our whole country would have no problem uniting to oppose it. But that's not what's happening, and their fears are completely made up, unfounded, and downright delusional.
I'm a naturalized citizen. If I don't carry my card all the time, that means I could be deported.
Well, I guess they can deport me because they can deport anybody.
As soon as they finish up with the brown people, the yellow people, they're going to hit the gay people too.
They're not able to identify with their gender.
That's illegal now?
Yes.
And then when they think like this, it leads to so many in their party to make statements such as these.
It's okay to punch Nazis, and if you voted for Trump, you're a Nazi.
I voted for Trump.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Step up into my space. It's called Stand Your Ground law. It was put in place so they could kill black people easier. Guess what? I can kill Nazis easier.
Who is a Nazi?
All of y'all.
Do you endorse violence?
From time to time, I endorse self-defense, sure.
If you guys have watched my content long enough, you'll know that in my experience, violent rhetoric is not a minority opinion in the Democrat Party. The majority of liberals I talk to at protests endorse violence against people who voted for Donald Trump. While the media runs cover for them and calls their movement peaceful, the same is true of the party today that was true during the BLM riots 5 years ago. Even if only a few in the party act on it, the majority support it. And that is a major problem for our country. Do you think the vandalism that's going on there is okay?
I'll take the fifth on that one.
Don't negotiate with terrorist guys. Don't platform them. Don't debate them.
Stand up and say it, fascists. Stand up and say it. I'm standing up and saying what I believe. You stand up and say what you believe.
But this didn't spring up organically. They were programmed to think this way by the mainstream media and big tech. The old people I talk to at protests who tell me Trump is taking away rights from women, rounding up brown people, and building concentration camps always tell me they hear this on MSNBC, CNN, and NPR. What news stations do you watch?
MSNBC.
Okay, and they're telling you that women's rights are the next to go? Mm-hmm. Millions of children have died?
Millions of children.
Where did you get that number?
I watch the news all the time.
Which news broadcaster said that?
I watch MSNBC.
I watch CNN. Oh, well, it's PBS since now he got rid of it because he doesn't want facts.
And the younger Democrats who don't watch the news are fed the same lies on TikTok and Instagram. And by their teachers who think Rachel Maddow and Stephen Colbert are the arbiters of truth. But the most dangerous thing about their brainwashing is that it always targets vulnerable audiences. Old single women, divorcees, immigrants looking to fit into their new country, and depressed youths looking for meaning in their lives. These are people who already have heightened emotions and anxiety of the world, and instead of calming their fears, the media takes advantage of them and turns these poor souls into their foot soldiers. The mainstream media and liberal elites have hated Donald Trump and anyone everyone who voted for him since day one and needed to raise an army to take him down. Ironically, just like how the Nazis took over the media to spread their propaganda and build an army of brown shirts, the Democrats have done the same today. I reference all of this to highlight an important and often missed point. Democratic leaders and their media constituents target people who are numb to reason and think only with their feelings. Republicans have failed to bring them into the fold because logical arguments can never sway people like this, no matter how hard we try. There was no one who tried harder than Charlie Kirk, and his life was taken by someone incapable of dialogue. After Charlie's death, this week's shooting on an ICE facility, and the countless other left-wing terror attacks over the past month, we must ask, would the majority of Democrats have willingly pulled the trigger that took Charlie's life? No. But they radicalized the one person that was willing to do so and gave those who cheered exactly what they wanted. The foot soldiers that the media spent the last decade training have now been activated. So how do we put a stop to this before it gets out of hand? I want to take us all the way back to our country's founding to get an idea. This is America. What separates our country from others is supposed to be dialogue and our ability to engage with others who think differently. When our country was founded, the 13 original states were very, very different from each other. In fact, the differences between them were probably greater than the differences between our 50 states today. Back then, each state operated like its own country, and they had border disputes, conflicts between militias, and very rampant hostilities between the different strands of Christianity. And yet, despite all of this, they were still able to find common ground and unite around common principles such as dialogue and free speech. James Madison wrote in the Federalist Papers, "It is the voice of the American spirit which cries to the whole, unite." It is more important than ever for our country to unite and agree that political violence is always wrong. We need to come together to agree that Donald Trump and his supporters are not Nazis, and temporary holding centers for illegal immigrants are not concentration camps. And lastly, the Democratic Party and mainstream media need to reflect on their rhetoric and take responsibility for their lies, which are radicalizing young people to acts of violence. I don't have much hope for my last point, but a lot of reasonable Americans have already come together to agree on my first two. Did you ever think you'd see a conservative like Charlie Kirk honored before NFL games, when just years ago they had "End Racism" plastered in the end zones for the Super Bowl? Did you ever think you'd see untouchable media heads like Jimmy Kimmel finally suffer some consequences for their actions? And did you ever think you'd see so many teachers and professors fired from their jobs from cheering Charlie's death? To stop the foot soldiers, we need to stop the generals, and that is exactly what the right wing has been doing so effectively in the wake of Charlie's death. This is not a game anymore, and people are going to be held responsible for the things they say. If you have a position of influence or power, decent people in this country are done with the rhetoric and are going to make sure you lose your job. Charlie once tweeted, "You can tell a lot about a person by how they react when someone dies." A murder as cruel as the one he suffered has made it a lot easier for everyday citizens to spot evil, based on how people have responded to his death. In the wake of this, I think it's only right that we now honor Charlie's mission by promoting the principles he died to defend. If you believe political violence is wrong, welcome to the Republican Party. If you think it's wrong to celebrate someone's murder, welcome to the Republican Party. If you believe free speech and dialogue are fundamental to our country's existence, welcome to the Republican Party. In his last days, Charlie dreamed of creating a big tent where everyone who could at least agree on these core principles was welcome to respectfully disagree on the rest. After all, these are the pillars our country was founded upon. These were about the only things the 13 founding states could agree on, and thank God they did. If the Democratic Party will only cater to the radicals who have long abandoned reason, then the Republican Party needs to become the new home for all, yes, all, who believe we should peacefully settle our differences. I believe it's also important that we save our fellow Americans who are vulnerable to the left's programming. But how do we reach out to people on the fringes who feel more than they think? Well, thankfully, fellow Christians, We belong to a religion that specializes in reaching out to the poor. The obvious starting point would be scripture and prayer. There is nothing more important we can do than pray. Routine dialogue with God is needed to dialogue with others. Bishop Robert Barron, who is one of my favorite faith leaders to look up to, urges Christians to invert their tendencies and to, quote, begin with the beautiful, which leads you to the good, which leads you to the truth. You know who knows this better than anyone? Democrats. That's why they are so effective at reaching these people and why they took control of the entertainment industry and the liberal arts. We need to reclaim these rather than ignore them. We need to make our beliefs more than just ideas. We need to make them beautiful for everyone to see. Thankfully, we don't need to sit around and wait for a conservative movie producer to go undercover and make it big in Hollywood anymore. We can all be content creators and share how beautiful the things we believe in look when they're lived out. That means sharing the joy of being married, the thrill of raising children, and the peace of living a life counter to the one the entertainment industry wants you to live. We need to flood social media with beautiful content for the most vulnerable in our society to see, because we truly believe our way of life is good and worth sharing with others. Not only will this save our country, but in the end, it will save souls. And isn't that a goal worth fighting for? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.